So I've been on testosterone for over 10 years now. So what's it been like? What has that meant? I could try to condense and rehash the whole of system. I spent a lot of time lamenting it wasn't supposed to be this way, and gradually more and more time feeling this is just the way it is. Increasing amounts of time questioning, and why can't this be beautiful? And a growing sensation of, and isn't it so? It's all a process, it's all a cycle. It's been a constant finding of myself, then realization that I can't find that which isn't lost, leaving only that which has newly come into existence, and that which, until this precise moment, could not reveal itself to me. Transformation in its many forms moves forward one way or another. I often feel my own heartbeat, and the prevailing thought has been, one day I'll be dead. But at its best, it's today I'm alive. That is one thing that transitioning and more generally being trans has given me. It's one of the aspects of my life that has brought me closer to the vibrating rhythm of life, of aliveness. When I came out as bi, I broke a social norm as a byproduct of coming into and began living openly as a trans person. I broke an enormous social barrier, particularly at that time, over a decade ago. The experiences I had being bi helped to somewhat prepare me for and ease the process of realizing that I was trans and transitioning. But the barriers broken as a trans person felt much more trans and wasn't even perceived as such. I also consciously became identified as a queer, masculine of center person and was and am almost always perceived as a gay man since I was perceived as a man, period, really. With these new identities and the perceptions of others, I became more fearful and more aware of my mannerisms, my voice, and my appearance. I was discriminated against and experienced prejudice and microaggression in ways supported by perhaps most people in the community that I was transitioning at and coming out in at the time, including the people whose sole job it was to support and protect me. There was even a floor-wide vote in my dorm about my ability to use the men's room. Um, I lost, but I think everyone really did in a sense. Um, I was harassed and stalked, threatened with multiple forms of violence. I've been assaulted, stared at, yelled hateful things in the street, in moving cars, at social gatherings. But I learned some tools that have thus far kept me alive and relatively safe, and have helped me to navigate experiences of violence in its many forms. Seemingly paradoxically, in the face of a seemingly hostile and sometimes dangerous world, I gained free present form and a life that I had to fight for, fight my own fears and fight others for, in exchange for a form and a life I could have inauthentically and spirit-crushingly and incredibly uncomfortable. And when I look back on it, I wonder whether it was the social stigma that surrounded her that caused me to recoil in fear, or the recognition of something in her that some part of me knew was also in me. I remember the first time I saw the website of a trans man who had undergone medical transition. The terror I felt, the sweat that built on my face as I hungrily browsed through all the pages, the queasiness in my stomach mixed with the pure exhilaration. This is possible. I think that I knew then, deep down, where I was headed, and it sparked a kind of endless curiosity that has led me here. I remember the first time I talked to another trans person that I knew was trans. In a mixed group of friends, I asked a million questions about his being on T. I touched his furry arm like he was a wonderful foreign creature, like a new lover's tender brushing, like the soft and loving strokes made on top of a newborn's head. Like I was seeing something I'd yearned for all my life, but had only discovered just in that moment. He showed us his torso, and we marveled at the changes testosterone. He was not yet out as trans to more than maybe one or two people at that time came out to me. I had just come out as trans myself, which had, in a way, forced her to face her own long-term feelings of gender dysphoria. I felt surprise and ashamed that I felt so, that I somehow should have sensed it as another trans person. I was honored and At that moment, for the first time since realizing that I was trans, I felt happy that I was. I felt happy because, if nothing else, I could be there for someone else who was entering the feelings. I gained a friendship that continues to this day with someone I will always deeply care for and admire for so many reasons. I remember the first time I embraced a trans lover. For the first time, someone I knew understood me and my body in a way that I felt the beginning of what became one of the most life-changing, world-expanding relationships I have ever had in my life with someone who I still love very much and certainly always will. I remember the first time I was part of facilitating someone else's transition beyond mutually, solely mutual support, with more to follow too. I recall the privilege I felt of being able to be a part of something larger than myself, a movement, a community that I felt connected to in a powerful and undescribable way. I had the motivation and the opportunity to be exposed to a multitude of diverse, gorgeously named and or unnamed genders and expressed genders, people with experiences and feelings incredibly and uncommonly similar to my own, and just as often, those seemingly worlds away from mine. More experiences which made me feel and continue to make me feel alive. Woven through these and beyond, you'll notice is the impact of community. You see, I can't tell my story, none of us really can, without also telling the Sometimes I wondered what my life would have been like if I wasn't trans. Without a doubt, I'd be wealthier, as back then my testosterone and my surgeries were excluded from nearly every insurance policy under the sun. But what would I be like? What would my life be like? Would I be married with 3 kids on the hill? Sometimes I wondered what my life would have been like if I hadn't socially or medically transitioned. Would I have had the same interests? Partner, friends, career, life? Would I have met who I had met, loved who I had loved, understood some of what I foolishly think I understand now, felt what I have known, and known what I have felt? Today, mostly I just wonder at it all. Yes, I mean wonder, but I also mean I wonder at it all. The things I did see, the things I did feel and learn, wrestle with, fall apart over, reclaim, gain, and lose. The many ways that I, as a person, changed in part. It's pure wonderment to think of the myriad people who came into my life and lovingly touched it in some way. The doctors and therapists who offered care to me and quite possibly saved my life. Those who fought or worked around those health insurance denials, and or those who were there for me when I was turned away elsewhere or received incompetent or problematic care. The random strangers who played a part in my personal growth, trans and otherwise, giving me life-saving support, warmth, and encouragement when few would or could. And the person I today share my life with and love ferociously, an amazing man and partner who we both know I would almost definitely not be with today if I had not transitioned. Stars be damned, then praised in immense and unending gratitude. So 10 years on T, 13 of being out, 15 of conscious named realization, and 23 of unnamed and later named knowing. And I find I have more questions than when I first started to consider my trans identity and transition. But 2 things I can say with great certainty are that, number 1, I'm incredibly blessed for so many reasons, and 2, if given the chance and the choice, despite all the pain and the hardship, I wouldn't make any other decision than to get stuck with a needle 10 years ago. You see, it's all a process. It's all a cycle. It's a constant finding of my newly come into existence, and that which, until this precise moment, could not reveal itself to me. Transformation in its many forms moves forward, one way or another.